Good day, and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council this Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. I'm this year's chair of the Food Council. I'm Jason Schreier, City Council for Elmwood East Kildonan Ward. And I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. And I'd like to say that we are joined today with members of the administration, with Brendan Harris, committee clerk from the City Clerk's Department, as well as Rusola Jabola and Dan Powell, both sustainability planners from the Water and Waste Department. And Clerk Harris, do we have quorum?
We do have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Can I mention who's here today and our members of the committees? We've got with us our Vice Chair, Martina Gornick-Marian. We have as well Justin Hoff, Abigail Gaspi, Manas Banerjee, and Hannah Baxter. And good afternoon to everybody. So at this point, Clerk Harris, take it away.
So we'll just start off with a motion to allow remote participation.
All right, would someone like to move that motion? Dustin moves that motion. Those in favor, motion carries.
And then a motion for the minutes of the meeting held on April 23rd, 2024 to be taken as read and confirmed.
All right, and Martina moves that motion. So moved, and those in favor, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, so item number 1 is a presentation from Climate Change Connection. We have Jennifer McRae joining us online.
Good morning, Jennifer.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, if I would be able to share a screen, I've got a little slide share to put up here.
If I could just get a motion to accept the submission.
Sure, motion to accept the submission. And Hannah move that motion, and those in favor, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, just give me a second here. Technical difficulties. I had a few too many tabs open. Sorry about that.
Happens to be the earliest we've started a meeting for a while. So on that rate, we're still doing okay for time by normal standards these days.
Okay.
Kind of firm.
Great. Well, again, thanks for having me. I'm one of 3 individuals who work for Climate Change Connection, a nonprofit registered charity operating in Manitoba. It's been operating since 2002. Just a bit about us. We work with lots of different groups throughout the province and throughout the city to bring about greater awareness and education of climate change and ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Again, our mission is to educate, inspire action, and build resilient communities. This is the team. So myself, Susan Lindsay, and Kurt Hall. Susan is a climate reality leader with over 20 years of experience educating youth and empowering youth to take up solutions. Kurt Hall is a certified professional engineer who's worked on, perhaps some of you are familiar, the Road to Resilience strategy for getting to net zero by 2050. And he does a lot of work with regards to energy solutions, policy solutions. So we all kind of have our little niches. Myself, I work on this food project that I'd like to talk to you more about. I've just gotten going on this project, so we've done a lot of different focus groups and meetings and things like that, and I want to talk today about some of the research that's come out and some of the developments that have come out of that work so far. Any questions? So yeah, again, Susan works with youth and empowering youth and does a whole bunch of community outreach with schools, and we host youth conferences, things like that, and teacher boot camps. And Kurt again has worked on this Manitoba's Road to Resilience, and that's a collaboration with 5 other environmental or climate action coalition, or like it's a coalition with 5 other groups. My work involves reducing food waste and food insecurity. That's come about because food waste is a major climate change issue, as you know, and that we feel in order to build resilient communities, we have to do more to address food waste, as well as alternative, as well as ways to produce food that is more, is less reliant on fossil fuels and fertilizer and things like that. So, in Manitoba, our second largest single source of emissions comes from our Brady landfill. So, reducing emissions is a huge priority, of course, for us, and that's where the food project kicks in. So what we've been doing is, and of course, because climate change is also causing food scarcity and issues of supply, it's contributing. Global warming is contributing to rising food costs in some cases, and that makes a lot of the food that we have in Winnipeg at risk for higher prices of inflation, because we do get quite a few imports in terms of fruit and vegetables. So we know that 50% of the food waste in Canada is occurring at the supply chain level before it even reaches a supermarket. So while there is also a statistic that talks to household food waste, and I know this committee is very familiar with those statistics. Basically, half of what we consume or purchase, we throw out as consumers. But what climate change has been focused on mainly is what's happening also at the supply chain level or at a corporate level in terms of food waste. The amount of food waste in Canada, of course, is the equivalent of, according to Love Food Hate Waste, 2.1 million cars, the emissions. When food rots, it's creating methane, which is 80 times more powerful than CO2 and 25% more harmful to our atmosphere than CO2. And when we look at the inputs that's going into food production in our country, the statistics are likely even worse in terms of emissions, because a lot of our food does get imported and shipped in. So 56.6 tons is the amount of food wasted across all levels of the food chain in Canada. We figure on any given day, Winnipeg is missing out on hundreds of thousands of pounds of edible food that could go to those in need, simply because we aren't rescuing it at the supply chain level or along the food chain system. And what we found, and this is based on meetings with numerous nonprofit agencies and meal programs across Winnipeg, is that they just lack storage. We know we're not doing well in our efforts to address food insecurity here in this province. that food bank rates are rising, that half of those that are accessing the food bank are children. And that's just those that are accessing the food banks. We know there are greater numbers who don't access food banks, who are food insecure. So why does the surplus food happen? It's likely due to overproduction for the number one reason. There can be transportation delays. There can be acceptability standards that aren't met. There could be issues of, again, overstocking, overproduction. If you look up distressed food as a term, you'll find out that there's also a whole middle ground, perhaps some of you know, of warehouses that are taking advantage of redirecting surplus food for profit. There's been a lot of pickup, at least in the US. I don't know what the stats are in Canada, but there's definitely food available at all times and in huge, large quantities. And the food that's not being donated is due to 5 main reasons. So there's this perceived lack of liability, which doesn't, which we need to educate Manitobans more on, and Manitoba businesses on, because of the law here in Manitoba, which states that if you donate it in good faith, you're not accountable for it being repurposed or reused. That there's a lack of financial incentive, that there's policies that might be preventing or discouraging donation, that there's ineffective communication coordination between producers and food rescue organizations, perceived complexity of donations or donating compared to alternative disposal. So our project seeks to address point 4 and point 5. Climate Change Connection feels that we, after much consultation with various groups, can provide support in the way of greater logistics and coordination, and that we can alleviate this complexity of donations. What I mean by that is suppliers and distributors are often needing to make quick decisions, and this is the guy on the warehouse floor that needs to there's been some error, or there's some need to get rid of food, and what will often happen is there's just no time to dial 50 different service agencies to get the food out the door, and most of the time they don't have the capacity to pick it up or receive it or distribute it. So we're lacking storage. This is the problem. There needs to be more storage here in Winnipeg for this food. That would solve a lot of the reasons why this food is ending up in the landfill. And if we could rescue it, we're looking at 3.8 2 tons of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for each ton of food. So the solution we're thinking of is to adopt the model of using 40-foot climate-controlled containers, which can be set to refrigerate or freeze the food. This would allow us, in each container can hold approximately 26 pallet loads of food. And then Climate Change Connection would be there to help coordinate and make available that food to 380 other nonprofits operating in Manitoba for free. That's what we're hoping to do. Believe that.
Can you repeat
Yeah.
that again?
Okay, so we want to establish a low-cost, fairly flexible model of having 40-foot climate-controlled shipping containers installed. They run on electricity to rescue large volumes of surplus food from shippers, distributors, farmers, the larger truckloads of stuff that is ending up in the landfill. And then we would play a role helping to coordinate the distribution of that amongst the service agencies that are already operating. So we've been in collaboration with Leftover, Second Harvest, Harvest Manitoba. We've been talking to various meal programs and food banks that operate throughout the city besides Harvest that are smaller. And our hope is to be able to buy them some time, right? Because if we can, essentially store the food safely and it's got a shelf life of a few months or even a week or more, even 4 days, we could probably get it to those who can make use of it, break it down, turn it into meals, or just get it redistributed in collaboration with these other agencies that are already doing a fabulous job, and we would be able to take advantage of larger volumes of food. And we wouldn't be competing with what they're already trying, what those other agencies are already able to receive in terms of donations. We would just be increasing their capacity. So that's the idea. Why we think this will work is it is working in Brandon. Brandon has 3 containers currently, and they've been operating this since 2022. I think some of you may have been or might be familiar with this program. They have rescued over, they report 40,000 pounds of edible food. And we estimate that's somewhere around 1,400 tons of greenhouse gas emissions prevented from entering, the atmosphere. So with Brandon being a third of the size of Winnipeg, we do feel there's even greater potential here for Winnipeg to really make a dent in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and also tackling poverty and hunger in our city. And for our service agencies to reap the rewards of having greater access to larger volumes of food. So again, it does buy time. It allows for service agencies to, who mostly end up hand bombing stuff into the backs of hatchbacks and cars and SUVs, to have more time to think about how they can move that food or what they can do with it if we have a bigger area to put the food. And again, there's plenty of food. It's really about us taking responsibility and taking action on putting something in place where we can store this stuff safely and not have it, like, redirect it somewhere safely and not have it fill up a landfill. We thought of the containers because they're very low cost. Again, they're flexible. If you need to move them, you can. They run on electricity. We could probably retrofit them to run on solar. And they're really low cost. And they're available. Sometimes they're here in Winnipeg. Sometimes they need to ship from Toronto. Either way, a used container is only $11,000. And again, 26 pallet loads of food. And we're at the point right now where we're also considering the model of well, we would like to see someone support a model which would be self-sustaining. Brandon's working really well because they have a self-sustaining food rescue store tied to this initiative of storing food. So while they do supply food banks and agencies and daycares and everyone they can, they'll give food away as much as possible for free. They also run a grocery store which allows individuals who don't want to access a food bank but want to have that dignity of choice to be able to choose what they want to eat at the store. They have this store up and running. And according to the transactions, they're bringing in something like $30,000 a month in revenue. After expenses, that's they say it's around $14,000 for overhead. So they're still bringing in a net profit of 170,000 a year. So this could be a self-sustaining model in Winnipeg as well. And gosh knows there's a lot of real estate options here in the city for something like that. To either, yes.
If I may, just before I forget, you're saying a lot of really important things and I don't want to lose it kind of thing. And if I can ask you a question right now.
Sure.
Okay, so you're saying there's a profit to this. That's all very well. I don't
Right.
understand. I thought it was a not for profit thing, or how is it that you're making money? How are people paying for this? I didn't quite catch that. I thought it was making sure we give like a food bank. It was like for me sort of a food bank thing. So I'm missing something.
Okay, I'll try and connect the dots a little bit better there. Sorry. Yeah, we're a nonprofit, so we are not set up to be like a social enterprise per se. But what Brandon has done with the food containers is they've also made use of opening a storefront location where they are actually indeed making use, like they're selling food, but at a third of the price what a person would pay. And it started with a pay as you can model or pay what you want to pay kind of thing. And they found that people just really it wasn't as well received, to be honest. Like people didn't know what to pay or they just felt awkward about it. So they set the prices at a third of the retail cost, sometimes even less than that. And people basically walk out of the store with, like it's quoted here, 2 full bags of groceries for $15 basically. And their clientele the store is for everyone. It's in the Brandon Mall. It's expanded from, it was in a smaller location, in more of the, I guess, inner city of Brandon, where it was pretty close to the Good Samaritan House and like some other nonprofits there. And so it does serve all of those other agencies as well. Like it does donate significant amounts of food. And just the other day, the school, I don't know, the Brandon School Zone, their meal program that they run, all their freezers broke down and they had nowhere to put food. So it went in these containers and, it's, it's a great service to the community in Brandon, but it is operating as a social enterprise whereby it is able to maintain a profit, but that pays for the overhead of these containers, which is minimal. They run on electricity. It's not a huge, but he is paying for the land to put those containers on. The other expenses are staff.
Do you rent it? Do you rent land on parking lots? Like, where is it located?
So he's got his containers set up at a trucking agency just off Highway 1 as you come right into town, and he's managed to secure that partnership. We've been exploring similar partnerships or opportunities. We still haven't found land to put containers on yet. But what we have identified is that the agencies in town, they lack the storage, they lack transportation. If there was one central point where they could access larger volumes of food, it would buy them time. It would also allow suppliers and distributors to be able to make one quick call and know that the food is going to get to everyone in town and they don't have to make a bunch of phone calls. So Climate Change Connection is just at the moment interested in getting the containers somewhere in place that's accessible for all of these different service agencies to use. I'm just bringing up the idea of I'm just bringing up that Brandon also has this food rescue store where they're able to, really add value by bringing in employment and training to staff and be a community storefront that serves, those who don't want to access a food bank, but who certainly would like a better deal on, on food that's still perfectly good and perfectly edible. So we are currently, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. We've fundraised for, we've secured the funds for one container at the moment, and we're just getting going on this. And
Where
we
is
have,
this, Jennifer?
sorry?
Where is that? You're talking about Brandon only?
No, we're hoping, we've secured funding for one container, and we want to bring this idea to Winnipeg. But we're looking for support still, to get this kind of off the ground. We're looking for feedback, recommendations, like anything anyone wants to share. Any additional ideas? I mean, we've had several working group meetings and are part of several different networks that are meeting that are engaged. We're engaged with various service agencies, nonprofits, meal programs, etc. And we've brought all levels together for various meetings to discuss where the hiccups or barriers seem to be, in really taking greater advantage of food that's being dumped in landfill.
Sola has a question.
Yeah, it's I think it's a very good initiative, and I know that the Winnipeg Food Council went for a visit to Brandon. I think that was 2 years ago. So they went for that program, and they went to the food rescue grocery store, and they went to where the containers were. Now, one of the challenges that I see with the program is, especially if Winnipeg decides to go with the grocery store approach, like how do you other grocery stores that are existing that people pay full price for, if people there's a cheaper one, then don't you think that there'll be some form of conflict between like the big stores and those stores? That is one of the things that I see. Like, how do you build that relationship with, like, say, Walmart or Superstore or like North Frills, as opposed to these cheaper grocery stores? Because if you ask me, I would rather go to those grocery stores than go to the big stores, and that might cause some form of friction. So how do you to overcome that barrier?
Well, I think that you won't always have all of the same supplies or variety of stuff that No Frills or like, we're not trying to replace the grocery stores necessarily, but where it does serve, like where it's serving people in the community of Brandon, is that all of a sudden there'll be like 10 pounds of ground beef or something like that a family can, or a daycare can take advantage of, or a meal program can take advantage of, and they can really, and those that come to the store are usually multi-generational families that can like split things up, or they're seniors that still have family and stuff that they can split the stuff up between. So it's not like ideal in terms of, yes, the variety you would see in another store, but he does have some local products and things like that there too. So it does promote locally made things as well. But I mean, there's just so much surplus, and this is stuff that has a shelf life of 4 days or so, or a week, or it's frozen. So again, you might get, or it's like, if we are getting large volumes of, say, produce and vegetables, that's really where the service agencies are going to benefit the most, right? And those larger volumes would be you wouldn't have a guaranteed supply of fruit and vegetable. You might have a guaranteed supply of some proteins and some dairy and bread, but you might not have a guarantee of fruit and veg all the time, or at least not regular things. So people would still be going to the No Frills and the other suppliers for those. But it definitely still makes a dent and allows people a bit more choice than they would have at a food bank.
Thank you, Priscilla. Any further questions? Oh, Dustin.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation and for accepting my request to present today.
Thank you.
Dustin. Good call.
Much as you have been looking for land to put containers on and acquiring support on that, it reciprocates some of the vision that Winnipeg Food Council has to addressing food waste, food insecurity. And when we're looking at a hub to distribute, I would call on the Winnipeg Food Council to further look into exploring a location within Winnipeg that could serve as an accessible hub. And this could be repurposing a site or identifying a new site. I see no significant challenges that would prevent us from looking into it further. And what is our part as a Winnipeg Food Council? We are not here to support the big box grocery stores. We're here to support and serve our most vulnerable citizens and struggling families, seniors, immigrants. We cannot rely on good gestures alone. This solution addresses surplus and food and food waste. So thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Dustin, and Dustin, I was gonna ask whose idea was this. So Dustin, thank you very much for this suggestion. Jennifer, how much are the shipping containers?
So used is what we're going for, and they range anywhere from 9,000 to 15,000 for used, being shipped and delivered to Winnipeg.
Jennifer, I'll buy one. I'll buy one. I'm not kidding. I'll buy one for my ward allowance. All I need is an explanation that can guarantee it has some sort of direct relationship to my ward of Elmwood East Kildonan, some direct relationship. Well, we're all one.
No problem.
I gladly talk with other counselors around that have similar concerns. I will take this from my ward fund. And it might take a vote of council because it's a little unusual. What you're talking about here is a little unusual. What I'm talking about here is a little unusual. So it does happen. It might not be seen as being conventional in terms of what the administration is used to doing in terms of what councillors can allocate. But I'm going to say it doesn't go against either the word or the spirit of what these funds are for. Neither the wording, nor the spirit. Convention, yes, this is unusual, Jennifer, and I thank you for being part of what is a very practical initiative. I got a few things to say. One, I'm kind of surprised that this is coming from a group called Climate Change Connection, and they're doing something really fundamental when it comes to food. But you laid it out in a way that's kind of a no-brainer, but I never thought it was as straightforward as you just explained. The relationship between food and the environment, the effect of the environment on food production, and the effect of food production on the environment. Now, I never put it together so simply and holistically as you did in this presentation, but my God. So thank you very much. I love
Thank
this.
you.
So anyway, it's just a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And we're open to feedback here on this project or any other ideas that people have. And we are really excited and looking forward to seeing this get launched and moving forward quickly.
You know, we live in an age of plenty. Sorry, part of your presentation, I was inspired to write some notes down. I missed a bit of it, so I had to ask some questions. So you make me think again. Not that I don't think about these things. I think about them all the time. But you inspired me to put together in a way, you know, we live in such an age of plenty that our overabundance, the likes of which I've never seen in my lifetime, okay? Is that not a simple fact? An overabundance of plenty of food production. Never seen, I don't know when in societies, and never ever to this extent, to the extent that it's actually affecting our environment when we have such overabundance. It's actually affecting greenhouse gas emissions. And yet we have this overabundance at a time of such food inflation and people using food banks. What a juxtaposition of contradictions, the likes of which governments can't ignore. And I'm glad we have this committee to share this moment. And I feel inadequate, but that's the beauty of times like this, when we put things together. And this is a bit of a solution that I really want to be part of. And just as, I'm grateful right now to be here as the chair of the Food Council, but as the local city councilor, this is real. So, but I'm going to put it up there right now. We need to talk in terms of you bring a proposal directly to me that I can put forward through community committee for allocation of funds. And I'm going to let you know now that is going to be in direct communication with and organization with the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation.
Fantastic.
I don't know about this, but they're very cool. And they will get this, and we're going to do something. Now, this is an experiment for everybody, kind of here at City Hall. This we're all going to learn.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. So we're going to spend $5,000 to $15,000, and we're going to see what happens. I just want to make the point that we live right now in the case where we're building a community center, and the community center itself, which is an important thing, and I voted for it, and I don't regret that. But just in building a community center, we're $20 million over budget, like that. $20 million over budget already, and who's to say it's not going to be more? And we're talking about $5,000 to $15,000 to help people's lives a little bit, get them a little bit more organized. Well, it's just as important as a community center for a lot of people, put it that way. So I'm going to put that financial comparison there just to show how realistic you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Can't thank you enough. That we know about Chalmers Renewal Corporation and fantastic work they're doing. So, and that's exactly the area. That's exactly the area this should be in. So,
I've got more to say about that too with you, Jennifer. We can talk about that later, but this is fantastic. I just kind of am interesting that I came from a group called Climate Change Connections, and you're doing something. You're taking the food issue so seriously. It's about other issues of food affordability and things like that, and didn't see it coming.
Well, there's a lot of work to be done for sure, and we feel we can make a really big difference here.
Any further questions? We've got another agenda on a longer agenda, and I apologize. Martina?
Well, maybe those others can go first. I'm kind of
I think Abby is first.
Oh,
yeah,
excuse me.
just because the hands have been up for a while.
I'm so sorry. Abby?
Hi, thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation. It's very, very informative. And I agree with you, your team, that it's important for us to provide food in a dignified manner. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why not everyone who is food insecure is accessing the food bank. I used to work at the food center, and it's one thing that we were always looking into is to provide food in a dignified manner. And we had a food market in that area, in Norwest, in the Inkster area. And it's quite successful, but the challenge, as you mentioned, is transportation, of course, storage, staff as well. Those are the challenges for the centers. But I would also suggest that maybe looking into the food desert we have here in the city. For most people, taking the bus, especially at the winter time, is a very difficult. So if you're able to put up or connect with a center that that is located in the area that's difficult for people to access food. I think that will be a contributing factor to the success of the project. And the land is access to the land is maybe another thing that will be a difficult for centers. So maybe the food council, they have the connection to any council or any um and anyone in position to have that access. So I'm hoping that your project will be successful. This is very much needed, especially during this time that high prices soaring, difficulty finding a job. So
Absolutely.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're aware that potentially there is a rescue store concept coming to North Point Douglas through Sunshine House. And we'll be supporting those efforts.
Thank you, Abigail. Hannah?
I believe Danny actually had his hand up before me, if you want to go first.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I just wanted to know, have you identified preferred areas for the placement of these trailers within the city?
So we had hoped actually to, we've been talking with various, trucking businesses, sort of like we approached them first. There is one transportation there's one trucking company that is supportive so far of the idea and has the space, but would lease us that space. So that's got to be built into a sustainable model as well, the lease space. So then we were approaching the Winnipeg School Division as well, to see if they had any property that we could park these things on. I mean, we only need 60 feet of space. Really, I mean, they can be hidden behind a building pretty easily, and then our contact in Brandon, of course, runs a security company, so he's agreed to provide all the security for them. But and they do lock, of course, and have all these other. They have, a sensor and a touch screen front on them, so you can control the climate that's inside the containers and everything. So, yeah.
So
We've also looked at Red River College and stuff too, like public. Yeah, we're approaching a few different people. Harvest does have capacity to put at least 2 additional containers there, which may. And we're just starting to work with them, which may help to increase their capacity as a food bank. But again, we want to be able to serve everybody as much as possible. And that's our real goal. There's 380 service agencies in our province that need food every day. So our goal is to get it to everyone and have it as broadly used as possible. So,
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Some of my questions have been answered already by some of you for the other members, but my question is about scale. So you mentioned that this is fairly successful in Brandon. Have you heard or do you know of any issues or concerns where scale is an option, meaning either there is more demand than you have capacity for, or potentially less demand? And how do you see that translating to the project in Winnipeg, especially considering you are planning on having sort of a wide distribution of the containers across the city to service multiple areas?
Right. I think we'll look for one specific site that we can get at least 2 or 3 containers set up to begin with. And then we had talked about increasing Harvest Manitoba's capacity as well by putting a couple on their site, but that's where we're at the moment. But yes, it could be scaled up. There is need throughout the city. There's need in the south end of the city for available food. But what our hope is we'll have regular pickup times for agencies. We'll be handling the communication to the service agencies so they know what's available or what's becoming available. Normally you have at least 48 hours notice that stuff is coming in, but again, with the containers, being able to safely store it, we extend that reaction time to the nonprofits and the service agencies so they can more efficiently make use of it. So we'll have regular scheduled kind of pickups or times during the week when service agencies can come and make use of what we've been able to rescue. Again, it can be scaled up. It's just a matter of which location we end up being able to use. They can be moved. The idea that if for some reason, like the reason why we're going with the containers is the low cost of putting these in place, right? A warehouse space would cost significantly more to run, and putting in and installing freezers into a space is significantly more. So, you know, if there was an existing space that we could use where we could utilize the parking lot, that's great. That's basically what we're looking at right now. But if it is scalable, it can be scaled up or down. The containers themselves don't lose value. So if they had to be liquidated, they could be fairly easily. So the whole plan is fairly flexible.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any further questions? Martina?
Thanks, Jennifer. I really enjoyed the presentation, and I think the idea is really incredible. It's sad to hear that there is so much, I guess, overproduction and what have you, causing this surplus of food. I am trying to understand the transportation piece. So during your presentation, you were talking about like the coordination and the communication, and of course, a lot of agencies, the transportation is always hard. Like, how do you get the food? So basically, from your end, it would be more like, here it is, it's stored. But agencies or daycares, or even with like the school food program, federal funding coming out, there could be opportunities here. But everyone would still need to come to you guys, essentially, correct?
Yes. For now, yes.
Okay. Just trying to kind of wrap my head around there. And I see that there's, like Abigail was mentioning, the location of any type of food rescue grocery store. Many areas of the city have food deserts, and those have been mapped. I know that WRHA has done some mapping. So if that was something that you needed assist with, we could certainly help you identify some of those areas. Central Winnipeg would be easiest, so all areas could come and gather what they needed. But I've also, like, as we're sitting there and we're talking about sites, and there was a few meetings ago, a discussion about repurposing Roland Michner Arena. I know it's not very central located. It's in Transcona, if I'm not mistaken. But talking about that maybe being a farmer's market or a food hub, there isn't a vision for that. But I don't know, that I'm just throwing that out there as opportunity, perhaps. So, but this is a really interesting endeavor, and I certainly hope we can move forward with it in some way.
You opened up a can of worms, Jennifer. Lots to talk about.
Okay.
We might need our own subcommittee, one of our subcommittees to further deal with this and to deal with you. I want to make a point again. Dr. Sola mentioned a very good point, and that is, how do we do this and not interfere with the benefits of private enterprise and food production when it comes to retail, and that's something we cannot ignore, kind of thing. But that's where we're at as a society. As an example, how can we be producing so much food than ever before, and yet have such food inflation, and have more people using food banks at the same time? So we have that inherent contradiction. So what Priscilla is mentioning is true. I would say it's part of that inherent contradiction we have to constantly solve or deal with. It's part of the struggle kind of thing, and part of the democratic process and conversation, including in the marketplace. But that is for us to discuss. as food council. I also want to put that in juxtaposition to this. When it comes to government involved with private enterprise at the same time, we know that housing is primarily part of the private market. And yet, in this time of housing inflation, the government is coming in to tax the people of Canada, to just bring in now, but the conditions are to deregulate zoning, but to bring billions of dollars to help housing in Canada. But I got asked the question, this is very similar to this, to me related to Busola's question, almost like a converse, but nonetheless consistent. And that sounds confusing. And here's what I mean. We've got housing inflation, so to solve housing inflation in the private market, we're putting taxpayers' money into it, or we're printing money, which sooner or later comes back to the taxpayer, to deal with the fact that we've got housing inflation. So how do we know we're interfering with the private market by abetting the fact that there's inflation? So what our answer is, and I voted for it, so it's on me too. I voted partially for it, partially against, but because there's inflation in the private market, we're just saying, okay, well, we'll give the private market more money so we can build those houses. I'm not certain that that's a good interplay between the taxpayer, the government taxpayer, and the housing industry. How do I know we're going to end up getting affordable housing out of this when it can just make the housing prices go up? Because we're letting go of the competition in the private market. Well, that's the virtue of the private market, is to compete, to keep prices lower. But because we have inflation on that end, we're subsidizing it in a way that I'm not guaranteed will help in the long run, because it doesn't put pressure to keep prices low for people that need to buy houses and rent houses. Because we're saying, well, there's inflation, we'll just give them more money then. So to me, it's part of the dilemma. And I'm not sure what the answers are, but we have to go through these things. We're willing to spend billions of dollars of taxpayers' money to abet the fact that there's inflation in housing in the private market, and therefore does not encourage to keep prices down for the people that need to buy homes. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we also have this sort of conundrum here where if we want to try and provide food for people cheaper like we can here, so realistically and practically done already, it will cause contradictions or conflicts, I guess, with the private market when it comes to food. Yes, that's where we're at as a society. But if we're willing to spend billions of dollars to abet house inflation, well, I think it's pretty justified, to spend a complete, absolute, minuscule fraction of that to keep food affordable. And we will live through this experiment, which is kind of ongoing, but this aspect of it in our time right now. And I'm pleased to be part of that. Any further questions? Having said that, Jennifer, thank you so much for your presentation. Another thing of where idealism and practicality can be one and the same. Thanks a lot, and Dustin, good call. Where do we go from here? Do we move? Pardon me. I'll move to receive. Okay, Dustin moves to receive. Those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Where are we at, Clerk Harris?
So number 2 is the report from the chairperson.
All right. I said a lot today, and quite frankly, from my pre-meeting, I was in Alberta for Federation of Canadian Municipalities when I had my pre-meeting with our coordinators and our clerk. I don't know about my notes in terms of the brief things I was going to touch upon. I talked to Brian Mays yesterday. I bring greetings for immediate past chair of the Olympic Food Council, Councillor Brian Mays. He says good day. Now, I did promise at the last meeting that I would bring every spring. I deliver seeds throughout my ward, and sometimes my seeds that I buy, and I'll even package myself with my family. And I could, for $2,000, I packaged 14,000 baggies of carrots and seeds and carrots. I personally bought out of my own personal pocket Sarah and I bought 1 million carrot seeds a couple of years ago, and 750,000 peas, and we bagged them ourselves into 14,000 baggies. It's a little labor intensive to do yourself, but we did it. In this case, I've got my provincial counterpart for half my ward, Jim Malloway, and he's done the seeds this year. So for members of the council food council that are here today, we've got cucumber, carrots, peas, lettuce, sunflowers, zucchini, and cactus for anybody who, well, I know it's late in the season, but I did promise seeds that I personally distribute door to door in my ward. So here they are for the end of the meeting. If any of you on Zoom wish to have any, we'll work it out. There's always next year. And that's my report.
We just need a motion to receive the report as information if there's no questions.
Martina, move the report. Those in favor? Motion carries.
So number 3 is the report from the coordinators.
So for the coordinators report, for June 19, 2024, it's basically divided into 3 parts: the green infrastructure and urban agriculture and community grants, and the food waste. And we have a copy of this report attached to the agenda, but I'd just like to highlight a few things. So for the food system snapshot teaser that says, "Are you dreaming of a healthy Winnipeg? Learn more about the vision for a more sustainable Winnipeg food system." It was displayed on digital screens in all public spaces in the city, and that ran between April 22nd and May 20th. So all swimming pools, all libraries was showing there. Some of you might, at least I saw it in 2 swimming pools, so I know that it was running. And then the pro bono students that worked for the 2023-2024 session worked on a public legal education on understanding the urban agriculture on city lands policy. They have finished their work and they have come up with a brochure which will be it's written in plain language. It's easy for anybody to just pick up and see what they can grow on city lands. That brochure the copy is also attached to the agenda. And I just wanted to mention that on the 4th of June, the Winnipeg Food Council participated in a focus group on the update of the comprehensive integrated waste management system. Asha Nelson and myself attended that focus group. And the Winnipeg Food Council has received an information to join the Honorable Minister, Ron Hostishin, on June 24th, 2024, in preparation for the July Federal, Provincial, Territorial Ministers of Agriculture meeting. Each organization is required to send 1 producer representative. And so a member of the Winnipeg Food Council with one of the coordinators will be attending that program. And a couple of meetings have been done. I will talk about other things which are already listed in the agenda, not to waste too much time. And that is my report.
Thank you, Busola. Any questions for Busola? Dustin?
What date did you state for
For the minister's program?
the invitation?
The invitation is for the 24th.
Of June?
I think
Yes.
it's the 25th.
Oh, sorry, it's the 25th.
I'm more like biochemistry, animal.
That's a Tuesday, June 25th. And
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the 25th. Yeah, Tuesday, the 25th of June.
and who's going from Food Council?
If I'm correct, Danny Manas has agreed to go with Danny. Yeah,
All right.
because it has to be a food producer representative. Yeah.
All right. And do we know how many people are going to be at that event?
No, it doesn't say.
Sorry, just a moment. I'm going to request a brief recess as we've just lost quorum.
Welcome back to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Winnipeg Food Council, Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. We have maintained quorum. We have with us Asha Nelson. Manas could not join us any longer. He is in a conference, a food conference, is it not, Dustin? Yes, he is. Okay, thank you. And Asha, thanks for being here. At this moment, we have moved our motions regarding the reports from the coordinators, have we not?
No, we have not.
We have not moved those motions. All right. Is there any further reports from the coordinators to complete their reports? Okay. All right. Any further questions? Asha's got a question. Just kidding. But anyway, would anybody like to move the report from our coordinator? Our coordinator report. Martina moves the report. Those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Busola. And at this moment now, I move that I will go to item number five to expedite this meeting and assure completion of what is necessary for this year, absolutely necessary in this committee. And that is number 5, urban agriculture and community gardens small grants. And who is to explain this report? Dan Powell would take the floor, please.
Great. Yep. So the report for the urban agriculture community garden small grants, we received 38 applications for a total of $67,000 in asks. The C&D committee has met and formed a review committee. We looked at the applications and 14 of those applications were accepted, either partially or completely. And so that accounts for the full $15,000 in granting funds. So the 14 suggested acceptance or suggested applications to accept have been submitted. They're part of the materials there with the agenda. If if the council's able to look at that, that'd be great.
We're taking a look at it. And
So Danny, just for reference, the suggested recipients weren't included on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
As we've done in some previous years, they're typically just read out at the meeting.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read them out.
That would be you.
Great. AROCA Canada, Elwick Community School. Sorry, should I also include the amount suggested?
Yes.
AROCA Canada for $500. Elwick Community School for $500. Exchange Met School for $1,000. The Filipino Seniors Group of Winnipeg for $500. ERCOM for $2,000. Manitoba Métis Federation for $1,250. Naomi House for $1,500. North Ends Women's Center for $1,500. Norwest Co-op Community Food Center for $1,000. Polson School for $500. Refugee Immigrant Farming and Integration in Manitoba for $2,000. Shaughnessy Park School for $1,250. The Fort White Farms for $500. And William White Neighborhood Association for $1,000.
thank you, Dan. Any further conversation or questions to our coordinator on this? Seeing none at this point, Clerk Harris, would you recommend moving the motion? And anybody at this point can make any discussion, any amendments to this if they so wish. I'm voting for it. Any further discussion? At this point, Clerk Harris,
Yep.
we move a motion to accept. Who wishes to make a motion to accept this report and proposal? Dustin Hoft moves acceptance of this report and its recommendations of small grant allocation. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? Dustin, you're voting for your motion. And motion carries. Thank you, Dan. Thank you to all for everyone for being involved in the process of I find difficult decisions to make regarding all these excellent organizations that are applying for these pretty small amounts of money, but it's our job to do it. And just thank you to those involved in that. That is done. Report item 5. There's nothing further for report item 5. We don't need to move the report because we moved acceptance of the report and its
Correct.
financial application.
Yeah.
Fair enough. At this point, what is the will of the committee? Do we move to go back, or is there anything in particular we want to get through before this meeting might not maintain quorum? What do we do at this point? We have actually, excuse me, we've got Bruce Pauls here,
Bruce Pauls.
oh, he's gone. All right, fair enough.
Yes.
That can wait till September.
Okay, so
Is what we've been told regarding the update on the proposal to repurpose Roland Mitchell Arena for a year-round farmers market.
so is the motion to lay that over?
Yes, who wishes to move to lay that over till September meeting? Martina moves that motion. Those in favor, motion carries. At this point, where should we get to? Reports of the subcommittees or farmers market campaign for 2024? What do you think we should do? I'm just trying to.
I could share the subcommittee. It's like a couple minutes unless there's something more important. There might be if we wanted to look at anything else, but I'm happy to share.
All right, Martina. So this is for item number 4.
Yeah.
Report of the subcommittees. Take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Research and Policy Subcommittee met earlier this week on June 17th, just a couple of days ago. We welcomed Matthew Weens from the National Farmers Union of Manitoba to speak about the work of the organization at the national level, but also provincially. NFU identified some specific issues that have been brought forward to the province, and to highlight a few, he mentioned the need for seed sovereignty, so farmers having the right and ability to save their own seeds and use them over and over, and and generationally, I guess is the proper terminology. There's a lot of work towards climate action, and I think that they would have found Jennifer's presentation quite interesting today as well. There has been discussions regarding changes to agriculture on Crown lands and advocacy efforts to maintain local or provincial ownership. Another issue that the NFU is working or have brought forward includes a choice of voice representing Manitoba farmers. And then one of the last is looking at best practices. Particularly, they've been looking at models out in BC as it relates to access to processing of livestock for smaller farms and for smaller producers. Some of the Research and Policy Subcommittee, they were interested in what other if there's any other, there's other NFU regional committees across Canada, and curious how they might be working and collaborating with local and municipal food councils. So there may be some opportunity perhaps to look at that more in depth. But it was a really interesting presentation, and the committee was quite engaged. Busola and Danny will be meeting next week in relation to future projects for the 2024-2025 school year for the Pro Bono Students Canada. A number of items were shared. And specifically, we want to look at maybe some opportunities within the food system snapshot recommendations and see whether there's potential research questions that the Pro Bono Students Canada students can look at to help move some of those recommendations forward. And then finally, Busola also shared the upcoming farmers market campaign and was seeking ideas for students to engage with public and promote work of the Winnipeg Food Council at this venue. So we discussed again, sort of further fanning out of the food system snapshot infographic, and also perhaps at a later stage, maybe seeking some public opinion through surveys as to their thoughts or priority areas for the Winnipeg Food Council, or even just do they know about the Winnipeg Food Council and the role we play. So yeah, it was a short meeting, but the presentation from the NFU was a good majority. So yeah, and that's it.
Thank you, Martina. As a past member of the NFU Youth and one who had, in fact, a summer contract working for the National Farmers Union Region 5, which is Manitoba, back 30 years ago. I'm pleased to hear that the Food Council is in communication with the National Farmers Union here in Manitoba in Region 5. There are regions across the country, some are more active than others, that's my understanding. And Martina, thank you so much for having that conversation with the NFU. And they've been around for 70 years. How do I know this? My mom's dad was the founding president of the Manitoba Farmers Union back in the day. That's great. I'm very pleased with that. Any further questions for Martina? Seeing none, thank you very much, Martina. Who would like to move the report? Asha moves Martina's report. Those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. And where should we go from here?
Can I just talk about the?
Minnesota?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I just wanted to mention about the farmers campaign briefly, if I may.
Yes, please.
So the farmers market season is starting.
This is a report item 8.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we've attached the calendar just in case any member of the Food Council. It was brought out at the RMP meeting that if any member of the Food Council wants to visit the farmers market and won't mind interfacing with people to talk about the Winnipeg Food Council, the dates are there for when we have scheduled, when the city has scheduled to have a stand at the farmers market. So you can check the calendar, you know the times and the markets we are visiting. They are also stated there. So feel free to visit any of the farmers markets. Any of the farmers market close to where you live or, you know, around your area, the dates are there. You will see a stand because this is a partnership with a public service. So you should see a stand from the city of Winnipeg, but we'll be giving out some of the materials that have been developed from the Winnipeg Food Council, such as the food system snapshot handouts and the brochure for urban agriculture on city lands.
All right, thank you so much. And Bronx, come to the Bronx Community Farmers Market, the corner of Henderson and Kimberly, and that's excellent farmers market. Do we have anything to say about the farmers market that was in the parking lot of the Holy Eucharist Parish Hall at the corner of Henderson and corner of Monroe and Watt? Because they've been a happening farmers market. I don't see them on the list today. Hopefully they're still happening. We'll see how it goes. I have to talk with them soon. And I will find out from the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation because they tell me everything I need to know sometimes. So any further questions from Ursula on item 8 and the farmers market campaign? Just so you know, later on, I believe in August, the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal Corporation will be having at least one, if not more, night markets on a Friday night, these beautiful Winnipeg summers, and they will include, I believe, to some all sorts of wares and crafts, including food. Any further conversation on this? Seeing none, would anybody like to move the motion to accept Busolo's report? Martina moves the motion. Those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. At this point, Abigail, are you doing okay for time? And thank you so much for hanging in. Right, thank you. Where should we go?
Sorry. Unfortunately, I was out for an appointment.
Okay.
And my battery life is not great being here in my phone in a car. I'm sorry, I didn't expect to be jumping in the meeting like this. I'm just wondering what. I guess I'm assuming you need me for quorum, but I only have.
And you did good because what we just did while you were here was really important. So Asha, thank you so much. At this point, can we consider adjournment?
Do you want to lay over the remaining 2 items?
Motion to lay over the remaining 2 items till the September meeting. Dustin moves that motion. That is understood. I'll say that is understood by the committee. Those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you to everybody.
And
excellent meeting. Thank you, Asha. And we have adjournment. Thank you.
we need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion for adjournment. And we see Abigail. All right. Thank you, son. All right. I see consensus. Thank you so much. See you in September. Hopefully actually see you this summer. All sorts of things happening in our wonderful city and wonderful things that we know that are happening that we are involved with. Thank you. You're good.